The interview by Sister Shanda Lewis and Brother Kellon Matthew. Brother Kellon Matthew is an ex-prisoner, so an ex-offender, and we will look at the life or the journey of his Christian walk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for turning out this evening. And thank you, Brother Matthew, for joining us this evening to be a part of this interview.
Yeah, you're welcome. And, well, I guess as much members could see, I'm not really a stranger here. Because, like, how it really start off, my Christian walk, it really start off from here. So, I'm not really a stranger here.
Well, that's interesting to hear. Can you tell us how your walk actually began here?
Well, it started off when I was in prison, that being as a repeated offender of the law, always breaking the law and doing all sorts of wrong things, and I get tangled up with the law. You know, once you hear you're doing things exposed, you must get entangled up with the law. And I get tangled up with the law, and I started making prison after prison, prison after prison, prison after prison. So they had me as a repeated offender. And, well, it come in a point in time where the Ministry of Youths, which is hosted by Miss Emmeline Pierre, Mr. Stroud, and others, they start off a program they call Project Rich. And when I start going in that, they start telling us about the life skill part. And the life skill part, it really boosts me up in terms of like kind of transferring me over technically to the Christian walk, because based on what I get in the life skill, it linked me back to the Christian walk. And the other evening I was in charge of the kitchen. And the other evening, I was going and give my cousin something up on the Raymond Block. And I hear Brother Stroud was stacking up in the chapel. But I passed the gate already and I was going back down inside. And like, somehow I just halt. And I just end up there. And I ask one question: what must I do to be saved?
Amen to that.
Yeah. And they sent me down in Acts with Paul and Silas when they was in prison. And when they pray to God and everything, and the prison shake, and everybody was out and everything. So I say, well, being as I have a little bit in the life skill in me already, I say, well, I go just stay there and continue. And I just keep on continue. And Brother Belfon, he ended up coming up, and I ended up, because I think he was on vacation or something at the time. Because I didn't see him the time I did go. And I see he come up, and then we start interacting. And he asked me, well, out of all it, you as a man, you look like you know a lot about the Bible. So how come you doing all this thing? You're living in Tivoli. You have churches up there, you're Adventist, you're Baptist, you're Catholic. How you don't get yourself in a church? I say, Brother Belfon, you see these Adventist people and them? Me that time with these people and them. You understand? Because they keep on, like, every time I come out, like, they keep on showing me a different face. So I say, well, I don't go inside it, and I know they don't like me, so why is the sense I should go somewhere and I know they don't like me? So he asked me, well, who tell you that? I say, well, I don't know, the face they're showing me. And afterwards, he said, here I'm going on. For me, just do one. Just go for one day. Just one Sabbath, just go. Well, I come out and I ponder about it. A couple Sabbath passed, I didn't go. And afterwards, I say, you see me? Let me just try one in truth, as he say. And I just go there once. And the welcome I get was like way beyond my expectation. So, and from since I go there that once, I is a baptized member there right now, and all now are still there. I never go nowhere. So I had to give Brother Belfort a special thanks. Brother Stroud, these people and them is people who always been walking with me from ever since. They always been walking with me. They never give up. So are there still, and truly because of them.
And through the power of God, we are thankful that you are here as well.
Yes, and I will always do what I could. Once it's for the work of the Father, for God. I will do what I could once I have life.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd like to rewind a little bit. Can you tell us a bit about your life and your background while growing up?
Well, I grew up in the village of Tivoli, and well, when I get to know myself, like start having like a sense and thing, the life was not easy for me. It was not an easy life, because it started off with my mother and everything that. When I started going to school and thing, I was doing so well in school that the teachers and them was always giving me mother a good report about me and tell her, well, I'm bright and this thing, everything was good. And then I started to get trouble. And my mother say, you see you, boy, you is a good for nothing. Eh? So she ended up putting me out. And from since I was about 11 years, she put me out on the street, so I had also make it on my own. And well, it's sounding like it's a bad thing she do me, but it's a good. You know why I say it's a good? It's because I get to make it on my own. Everything I know it on my own. I grew up in the streets at Tivoli. It was not easy. I grew up, I sleep in society hall with vagrants, cocaine smokers. And look at me here today.
Thank God for who you are now, that you are living a life that is suitable to Him.
Yes, well, I also do that, because I know I still telling myself that he had something in store for me. That is the reason why I'm still alive today. And I thank God for life. Every morning, every evening, when I go into sleep, when I wake up, I always giving Him thanks for helping me to come out of prison. Because I go to Him and I pray before I come out in 2014. I pray to Him and I tell Him that to forgive me for my sin. Help me, let me make it. And I swear to Him I will never steal again. And from 2014 to now, I never steal again. And I will never steal again. Yeah, so, and well, that is how it will start off. The whole Christian life and the whole life about me, that is how it start off. It didn't start off easy, but something I always learn, that it don't matter how hard you fall, but it's how well you could get up.
Amen. That was some very powerful words, I must say.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of insight on your time in prison? How was that experience for you?
Well, it was not easy based on it was kind of easy, but still was not easy, because I was in charge of the kitchen. They make me in charge of the kitchen. I used to carry a red band, so I was in charge of the kitchen, and everything was easy for me. But you see, when it comes for the lockup part, it is not nice. Time like now, so you're inside. You lock up, like fall don't even go inside yet. And big people lock up inside it. So that could never be a good thing. Because just imagine fall free. And we lock up. So it was not easy, and your characteristics, it going down the drain. It pulling you down. Because once people see you and they know you come out of prison, they don't want to have nothing to do with you. But being as I find Jesus, and I come outside and I did since 2014 to now, people see it in me. I don't go out there and boast myself and say, well, oh, I's a man, I's a well-behaved fella. People see that in me. So right now, I day and I walk in a supermarket right now. And before time, people used to want to take their chances with me because how I live my life. But people used to see me and they didn't really know like how it start off, how I start living that life. People just have to really understand why you live. And nobody never, a lot of things I do there, nobody never come and ask me why. You have a lot of people in Tivoli who are making joke with me up to today, despite how I live my life. But do any one of them ever meet me and ask me why? None. But they just cast in their remarks. But I still pray to God for them.
Do you have a bit of advice you'd like to give to our audience about your prison life and why not to follow the route that you followed?
Well, first of all, when people ask me that, the first thing I just say, I just call on parents. Parents, I go tell all you something, I'll make all your children, but I'll don't make their mind. But, no matter what we do, God never give up on us. Please, don't give up on all your children. Because I don't know where they go end up and how they go end up. Don't give up on them. God never give up on me. And, well, I could say my mother they kind of give up, but from since she make me go, me and I never lose her composure. Me and my mother are always good. And I love my mother. And I will always love her. So, parents, don't give up on your children. And children, know who the company you keep. Know who you keep for friends. Because I learned something in Corinthians. Let me tell you in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. It teach me that drunkard, covetous, don't mingle with them. That is what it tell me. Why you should mingle up with a junkie? Imagine, look at me. I come to church today. Could I go and mingle up myself with a junkie right now? After I come out to church today? Why? You could see it because the Bible says, by the fruits you shall know them. And people just meet me and ask me if I is a Christian. Because why? Because by my fruits, they know me. So parents, children, take that advice from me. Parents, don't give up on your children, please. Because it will be worse for them. And I don't like to see them later on in life. Or I don't like to see them in a coffin. So don't give up on them.
Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. Parents, children, please take note. We will all like to be a part of God's kingdom. Even in this present life, we would like to live a life that is suitable to God. So thank you so much, Brother Matthews, for being here today. And enjoy the rest of the Sabbath.
Okay, thank you. All right.
We'll now have an item of special music by the music department of the Maranatha Church. Following this, we'll have our panel discussion.
Pleasant good afternoon once again, and as we're about to get into our discussion, we're going to ask the persons on the panel to introduce themselves, starting from my extreme right with Kellon, coming right on to Sister Inja. So just say your name.
Well, my name is Kellon Macho from Tivoli, St. Andrews.
My name is Dr. Niels Chaitin. I am a social and behavioral scientist.
My name is Luana Kathian Joseph John. I am a member of the Good Hope. Good Hope is located in St. Paul's in St. George, for those who don't know.
My name is Shireen Hippolyte, and I'm an early childhood educator.
Indra Thomas, teacher at a secondary school.
Thank you very much. And as you have previously advertised, the theme and the focus is about our young people. Should we go or should we stay? So without any further ado, I will go straight into the questions. So panels, listen carefully, and anyone can answer if they feel comfortable. So the first question that I have is that it takes a community to grow a child. We know that from growing up all the time. That's one of the old saying. That would involve the school, the church, the home, and the village. With the onset of technology and the shift in the involvement of the village as not as it used to be, because we know that people become more self-centered nowadays. Okay, since personal self-focus, the first question, would you advocate to resort to the old method, which would have yielded much more discipline in our youth? Would you resort back to that old saying, it takes a community to grow a child?
The Bible said, spare the rod and spoil the child. Don't spare the rod and spoil the child. However, there are different methods of discipline that could be used. We are in a modern time, and the children are also modernized. So with that, what may have worked years ago may not work today. So we could use different things for correction.
Anybody else?
Okay. Now, if we think about the method of correction that parents used back then, like my mom and dad would tell me that the sort of, I call it evil and child abuse, what they used to do, like kneel on grater, get switched, beat you, and so on. I don't think when the Bible speaks about don't spare the rod and spoil the child, that had nothing to do with this form of punishment. Now, correcting a child is key in order to ensure that the child is well disciplined. But as parents, you need to be careful when you're correcting your children, because they may get the wrong idea. Now, don't get me wrong. When I growing up, I told my mom, for sure, definitely, that some of what she did was like, I call it child abuse, but I wasn't able to tell her when I was small, so as soon as I turned adult, I told her all of it. But at the same time, I tried to stay away from lash because I hated it on a whole. But in this era, there are certain things that you can use. For example, you give children time out, and that time out means to go outside. Back then, you could tell them to go inside. That's a punishment, but sending children inside, no. It's a technological age. That's happiness, that's joy for them. So in this era, the same method from back then would not work.
This is for Sister Katia. Sister Katia, you are a social worker. Give us a preview of some of the things that happen at the Child Protection Authority.
Brother Belfan, you put me in a tight spot. in my introduction, I chose not to say, who am I, for a specific reason. Because some of the regulations or some of the laws that are binding the social work itself, some of those principles is not my personal belief, it's not my principle. Based on a professional viewpoint, one might say it is not right to beat a child because it is a form of abuse. Abuse is classified though, as long as there's no mark on the child's skin, then one might say it's okay. For instance, a child might misbehave and you can give him a slap, and that is not classified as abuse. But if you were to take a strap and give him some, and at the end of that, you see his skin chopped up, then right off the bat, it is abuse. Some professionals in the field of social work would say it doesn't make a difference. Whatever, lash is lash. You should not hit a child. That's from the professional end. From my perspective, I believe in the Bible way of doing things. And Sister Indra stated that, I think you said that when the Bible speaks about don't spare the rod and spoil the child, it doesn't necessarily mean about hitting. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, the form that they used to use. Sister Indra and I were neighbors growing up, and Sister Indra's mom method of discipline and my mom method of discipline, trust me, was the same. And I honestly believe it was abuse, because at the end of being beaten, you couldn't even feel your skin because it was blistered and chopped all over. And I'm not exaggerating, it was literal. And that is a form of abuse. But at the same time, I have 2 children, and the Bible speaks about training your children in the fear of the Lord, and he gave you a guidance. He said, don't spare the rod and spoil the child. I believe 100% in beating. I don't believe in abuse, but I believe in beating. And I believe that the old-fashioned way, not the abusive part about it, but the old-fashioned way, it still works. I have 2 children, and I could attest. Yes, Sister Shireen spoke about other methods, and that works perfectly fine as well. Mind you, I don't resort to beating force. Beating is my last resort. But at times, they have to get it.
Okay.
Can I just wait for a
Okay.
second? I, like my friend here, I've done most of my work in North America. And in the Canadian society, you are permitted to correct a child with your hand. Okay, so still on the books in Canada, if you slap a child without leaving any abusive marks, causing blood or anything like that, you're okay. If you take a shoelace and hit the child, that is deemed a weapon, and you could be charged for it. Okay? So, however, let me come back to Grenada, because that's where I am now. And I have a concern for the way parents punish their children. There is punishment and there is abuse. What I found out is that it happened to me too, growing up, and I found myself doing it too, even if my children were in North America. We had to get vexed to correct them. You know, and we conged them too. Why you so stupid, you know? And his licks are getting. And it seems as if mommy is not angry. She can beat you, right? And some people even wake up the children with licks. They wait until they go and sleep, and then they wake you. That's abuse. That's physical abuse, right? That's torture. So for some others, they don't do it physically, but it is emotional abuse. The kind of things they say to you. But you see how you ugly like you father boy, you know that kind of way, right? And it's emotional abuse, right? And the consequences of that are very, very far-reaching, very far-reaching.
Okay, so Elder Chaitan and then Sister Shireen. So I have 2 questions. We have the school, we have the church, we have the home and the village. have the functions and the responsibility of these bodies changed over time? That is for you, Dr. Chaitan. Has the function of the school, the church, the home, and village changed over time? And Sister Shireen, your question is, has technology a greater influence on our youth negatively or positively?
Okay, the use of each of these elements. You said the home, the school, the church, and the community. Each of them have their own role to play, right? Have their own role to play, and it would be nice if they all could have a central theme, right? I remember when I was doing some work for the Ministry of Education, and my job was to administer what is called a star intervention program with boys that were dropping out of school and getting involved in crime and violence. They gave me 13 boys from St. Andrews, and we were doing well with them. We were getting to the roots of the problem. And by the way, a lot of the roots of the problem was in the home. In the home. Some of the things that Kellan talked about. And by the way, folks, I'm happy to be sitting by Kellan because Kellan is my wife's nephew. I found out that in jail, when I went to speak in jail, I found out that guy is my wife's nephew. So yeah, next time you better call me Uncle Niels, right? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. But what we found out was that when we were finished with these boys, they got to go back to the community. And then the community was reshaping and erasing all that we were doing. So what we had to do now was to work with them during the business hours, and in the evening time, go work with the homes and work with the community. The same concept, the same strategies, the same virtues we were teaching these boys, we had to teach in the community and in the home. Well, guess what? We had it in the school too, right? So it would be perfect if each of these elements could embrace the same concept, the same morals, and the same virtues. But we're far away from that. And it's getting worse. Because, my friends, listen, there ain't no Grenada again, eh? Get that straight, eh? There's no Grenada. There's a one world. As long as you have a smartphone, right? Everybody, you see young people in schools. Just a couple of months ago, I went back to Toronto. Young people are on PUBG and Free Fire in the States, in Canada, down here. Wow. The kind of porn sites we see on this boy's phone, right? It's for real. It's for real. So really and truly, Brother Stroud, what hope do we have to integrate all four? It's only God can help us. But of course, it's important.
I remember growing up, we could have sat in a class session for an hour, and it was interactive. We would have had fun. We would have learned. Things I would have learned back then, it's still with me today. Now, if I try to bring these same things that I learned today to my classroom, I wouldn't even get 5 minutes out of the children. Because as young as, before your child could even say, guess what, parents? We provide them with tablets, and they're in front of the television watching Cocomelon. A lot of the shows that I know is because I heard it from the children. Now, the children cannot just wake up today and know this show. It means that parents are introducing it to them very early. The impact of technology on the children can be both positive and negative. Now it makes my work, and I'm pretty sure any other educator, even easier. It means that if I have a lesson to teach, and to introduce that lesson, I pop up a video, the children are engaged, they're glued, and then it makes me easier to present to them now a worksheet or something like that for them to be able to understand based on what they would have seen, versus with me standing there trying to explain the same thing that they see in 2 minutes and grasp versus 15 minutes. On the downside of that, to get them to be interactive, to get them to go outside and have a good time, to get them to be sociable, it's hard. So that's the downside of technology. The children prefer to stay indoors and to be engaged with the idiot box and the tablets, and they will ask you, birthdays is coming up, what is it you would like to have for your birthday? And they will say, Miss, we want a phone, a cell phone. And so it has its good, but to me it has more, on the social end, more negative than positive.
As a punishment before, as one of my friends said here, you tell your son, okay, you're not playing football again, go inside. Go inside. In those days, that would hurt you. That would hurt you, your friends play outside. Now when you tell a child go inside, you send them to the arcade. That's not punishment. They want to go inside in their room and get the tablet and get the device because it's more entertaining. You're entertaining them, really.
From statistics of the prison, we know that we have over 400 plus 496 male on Richmond. Thank you. We have a person from the prison ministry, the social worker up there, Ella Stroud. And we know from that population, when you look at persons under 35, they form a high percentage of persons in prison. But also when you take another look, you have a high percentage of persons within this area, the south of the island. When you look at sexual crimes per church, the Adventist church are leading. Now, my question, we're looking at the importance of the formal years of the child. And we know that one institution said, if you give me a child for the first 6 years, they could shape that child for life. When you're looking at the moral aspect and the spiritual aspect of that statement, how feasible you believe from your experience that statement is?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
Well, let us be talking about the institution and them, like government institution, like you have places like in Baculet and them places and them there. I was there. I was in the two institutions, in Victoria and in Baculet. But what I say I don't really say now have the direct question for your the direct answer for your question, but I could try to answer it in a way that you could understand it. Because when you hear children, you see, when you hear children get into something that, if to say like, you see the institution and them, I don't find like, I don't know how it is right now. I don't know how it's going on right now, but the institution and them, what I've been through before, it was not so nice and like healthy. It was not helping. No, I could tell you from my point, it was not helping.
Okay, I want to pick up a little on Brother Stroud's data. He said 493 males and 3 females. Wow. I just came from St. Lucia. The Borderley Correction has 499 men and 13 women. It would seem that we are predisposed men to criminality, it seems. I mean, if we look at the figure, it's overwhelming. it would seem is either the man, the male figure, the male person, is predisposed to criminal activity, or there is a systematic trap set to catch us, right? Because don't tell me women are not involved in crime too, right? Don't tell me that. How is it that there are only 3 women in jail? Is it the judicial system? We got to ask a police officer or a lawyer if he's here, right? Is there a trap in the judicial system to catch men, right? 496 men. All right. Now coming back to the sexual offense, you know, you talked about the Adventist church, and that is so. I mean, one of the reasons I think that so many of Adventists get involved in sexual assault and crime and abuse is because we preach the law so much, right? We preach the law. A lot of other churches say, you know what, man, I can live the way I want, and I could just go and ask for forgiveness and confession. But you notice something, where there is a very high level of thou shalt not, people tend to go against it more. Where there is a high level of, if you want people to rebel, tell them don't do it. Hey, it happened with Eve in the Garden of Eden. God told her don't. And the minute you say don't, the minute you put up a barrier, instead of discussing it, why we should do that, what are the benefits, we put up don't, and the thing nice. We do not tell young people that sex is nice. Yeah, let me take off my glasses. We do not talk the truth about sex. We're afraid to say sex in church. And some of them old people are saying, all right, you enjoy too. But we have to teach our children what is right and what is wrong, that God made it for us. When I leave here tonight, this evening, I'm going to be speaking in the spice basket, then I'm going home and take a shower and have sex with my wife. And you say, you have to say it in church? Yes, because it's what God made for us. It's a cement to hold our relationship together. But if we don't teach sexuality to men, and they think that the only reason when you see a woman, and I said it over and over, when you see a woman, you go, whoa, whoa. What are you saying? You didn't even break a word with the woman. You don't know how she's thinking. But you are looking at what pleases you, right? We don't teach. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, I got myself in trouble, and I probably might gonna get myself in trouble tomorrow. If you watch the Keller and Bob show tomorrow, the Bob report I'm on tomorrow, I might get myself in trouble. Because there was a program here in Grenada that the EU financed. It's called the Spotlight Initiative. Have you heard about it? Yep. The Spotlight Initiative is dealing with the hurt and pain caused on our women. Okay? And girls. 6.5 million euros. That's about 20 million EC dollars. And when I went to the meeting, I asked them, so show me what you have for men. Who are the people that are offending these women? Ladies and gentlemen, I could tell you 97% men. Now, the gay and lesbian thing is happening in Grenada too. Did you know that? Yeah, come in church and think we're in a perfect world. It's happening in Grenada. So we give them 3%. But 97% of the abuse on our women and girls are done by men. And you have $20 million earmarked for a program, and nothing teaches men how to respect themselves, how to respect women, the correct function of sex, the beauty of sex, nothing like that. So we're going to continue. So the question I have for you, for us, what are we doing as a church? Are we still scared to say the word sex in church? Do you know that our young children are more involved than you think they are? Listen to me, man, in our program, I took the phone from a young man and I went through his list, his history. He had 88 porn sites on his phone. 88 porn sites. It's happening in our church. Don't turn a blind eye. And when we don't teach it, when we don't come out and teach the right about sex, then the perversity of sex is going to take over. Sorry for being so long.
Teacher? All right. Let us look at the impact of trauma.
You spoke of about, we're looking at the number of persons in prison for sexual crime. But you know that that have a traumatic effect on the individual. So when we look at abuse, bad accident, rape, sexual offense, combat, and natural disaster, they have an emotional response called trauma. My question to you, trauma can be either physical or emotional. Speak to the effect of trauma on the young person well into adulthood.
Oh,
Brother Chaitan and Sister Katian.
okay. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 2 decades, the whole aspect of medicine has changed. We have sitting in our audience a pharmacist. I think I saw him on the news as the president of the pharmacology something, right? I saw him giving some big advice there. I was happy to know that I know him, right? Didn't you? All right. However, people's illness used to be only diagnosed with physiological signs and symptoms. It's just about 2 decades ago, it's now realized that it is a psychosomatic thing. And the trauma that you suffered could actually have an impact on your overall health. Did you know that stress has a profound impact on diabetes? Did you know that the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, right, would actually cause a blockage in the use of insulin? And so you think you're eating right, but you're stressed out every day, right? And you still end up with diabetes. And there are others, a lot of NCDs like cancers and heart failure. So let me tell you something, what happened. Over the last decade, the Center for Disease Control did a study in collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania. And the term ACEs came up. And for social workers, we used to call it childhood trauma, right? Now we call it ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Let me tell you what they are. They gave 10. Let me tell you what they are. Physical abuse. Physical abuse can irreversibly, I wouldn't say irreversibly, without treatment, right? It could damage a child and make that child into a damaged adult. Sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect, mental illness in the home, right? A parent has it, right? Divorce. For those people who like to walk away from your relationships and you don't know what's going to happen to your children, it damages your children. Substance abuse, right? Alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, right? Violence against mother, death and incarceration of a family or relative. These 10 points are the 10 pointers for ACEs. Now you ask yourself the question, how many of these you have been exposed to? You may not put up your hand, but I have been exposed to about 5 of them in my home. And that was a Seventh-day Adventist home, by the way. About 5 of them. Now, quickly, I don't want to take your time. I want you to speak to it too. Hold a second. Because I got to leave. Oh my gosh. I got to be speaking. I'm a featured speaker in Spice Basket. I got to go. But listen to this. 10 effects of childhood of ACEs. So I just told you what they are. Listen to the effects. Oh boy. Compromise brain development of children. Weaken immune system of children and adults. Disrupt in the cognitive processes. They can't think right. It's going to affect they're learning in school. Disrupt attention span. Ladies and gentlemen, a diagnosis came on the market about half a century ago. It was first called ADD. It was called ADD first. It's now called ADHD. Attention hypoactive deficit disorder, treated by a drug, Ritalin, which is a derivative of cocaine, by the way. Okay? And they pump up our children with that. Create a bipolar, listen to this. Create a bipolar behavioral effect in children and young adults. Make victim more prone to anger, violence, and failure. Keep the mind in an agitated or defeated mode. If you are certain personality type, and the two we're talking about is introvert and extrovert. If you're from the extrovert, where you're more kind of a hyper, you are going to get more anxiety, because there is an energy that goes with that anxiety. If you're from the introvert, you're going to be depressed. All right. Keep the body's response system in constant alert or defense mode. So, ladies and gentlemen, the two hormones we spoke about, cortisol and adrenaline, they're responsible for when you are stressed and when you're under attack. But what do? We put our children in a constant state of stress. So guess what? It's like you're running your car in Grandin's Valley, Ultra Grandin's Valley, when your number one gear is meant for climbing Granitang, you run on the car from to Granville in number one. You burn out everything in the car. The car will overheat. You are damaging your system. Make the body more susceptible to NCDs, that's non-communicable disease, and lead to an early death. Folks, we got to be careful with our children, because we may be creating not only the demons, not only the prisoners, but we might be feeding the undertaker too. I gotta go. God bless you. I gotta go, bro.
Every one of us has experienced trauma one way or the other in our lives. Whether it be the death of a loved one, a bad relationship, whatever it is. Dr. Titan gave a number of different examples, but every one of us has experienced trauma, right? The thing is, some might have the experience, or the aftermath of it might be greater than others, right? So maybe I didn't have anyone in my family who died. Maybe I have a boyfriend and he left me for whatever reason, and I really took it bad. I mean, comparing that to the death of a loved one, one might take it differently. It's just an example, I'm saying. I mean, some persons are really extreme, and to lose a boyfriend is something really big, but I'm just saying, it's just an example, right? But every single body experienced trauma at some point in time in their lives, right? We all are exposed to that. And if you were to do assessment with those inmates at the prison or at Falmalagan, you would, or even at the juvenile center, you would see that what caused their behavior, what caused them to be in the place that they are in, was because of some unresolved trauma, right? The thing is, we have trauma, or persons experiencing trauma everywhere, all around us. But because based on the society that we have, we are not educated enough to know how to deal with trauma and how to deal with people who are exhibiting certain behaviors due to whatever trauma that they have experienced, right? No, Brother Bethel, I'm not too sure. You said I had to do a little presentation. I hope that I didn't have to do it because I'm about to dive into it now. Right.
Can I just say, folks, I'm sorry I have to go. I have to be up in Spice Basket for 6 o'clock. But I'm leaving you. I'm asking you if you could let Brother Stroud take over for me, right? He's an experienced man. He's going to do justice to this.
Right. So the thing is, welcome, Brother Stroud. The thing is, because we are in a society that I guess maybe because we're not taught it properly, I'm not sure, or maybe because we think it's not something important, so we are not willing to learn. I'm just saying, I'm not sure. But our society, we really don't know how to deal with people who are experiencing trauma, right? But for me, based on the field that I work in and seeing numerous persons with numerous behaviors due to trauma, when I dig, I realize that it stemmed from the home. Now, Brother Matthew, he gave his testimony, and he touched a little bit on the fact that, you know, his mother kind of left him when he really needed her the most at 11 years. Sister White tell us, as I said, I'm supposed to do a short presentation, and I chose to do the presentation on character building, right? And the reason why I chose that is because at times I believe we tend to miss the mark when it comes to our children. Character building, Sister White say, it's a lifelong process, right? And she said that if we understand that, then we will be able to change a lot of things that are happening within our families. Now, as a parent, right, I realize that the devil is on our heels because he wants to take our children away from, not just us, but away from God, because we are just short, basically, managing the children for God. Now, if we don't build the characters of our children from an early, a tender age, it doesn't matter what trauma they experience, negativity would always overcome them. Now, we have to try our best to embed, to instill within our children the principle of God. There are a lot of different aspects I could touch on in character building. For example, the things that we allow our children to watch, listen, or read. Sister White said that it doesn't make sense investing in anything that doesn't bring any healthy or fruitful thoughts for our children. And sometimes we might think, oh, it's a storybook, or a teenager might read one of those novels. It's something simple. But we have to look at what implication those things have on our children. Because if you want to look at those love stories, right, it stimulates a lot. Remember, we are born with emotions and hormones and all these things. It stimulates a lot for an adult reading a book, much less for a child. Sorry for taking so long, but I just have to say it, right? Much less for a child. If we look at the movies, and if you look at those cartoons right now that are reigning, they have infiltrated a lot of homosexuality in it. A simple cartoon like Dora. I guess everybody know Dora. Look at Dora, who's teaching you a lot about nature, adventure, and all these things. Yes, there are a lot. And why you think they put it in the cartoons? Because what you look at, what you listen to, it stirs the mind. It builds the mind. So Sister White is telling us that we ought to build our children's character through God, and she also has guidelines in counseling to parents and teachers. If you read the book, you will get a lot. So I'm saying this to say, now if we mold our children in the fashion of the Lord, if we build their characters, if we try our best to go based on the principle of God to build their character, yes, we would be exposed to trauma. We cannot run from that. You cannot tell your loved one not to die because that is inevitable. You understand? These things must happen. Someone must die. You don't know what would happen in the future if they will get a divorce. I'm just saying, we would be exposed to trauma. As little as they would be exposed to trauma. But if we instill good principles within our children, they would not be overtaken by negativity. Richmond Hill, Falamalagan, Backlet, these places would not be their home. Because why? God will be with them to help them through whatever trauma that is needed. So one of the reasons, or the main reason in which we have so many of these people up there is because we fail as parents to mold our children from a tender age. And let me tell you, I remember when growing up, Mommy used to bring us to all different kind of church. We didn't really grow up in Adventist, but Mommy made it her duty to take us to every Sunday. I could attest at times, your shoes squeezing you. When you reach in church, you take it out, you can't put it back on because your foot swell. I don't know if you know what tight shoes is, but when you can't put the shoes back on to go home, you have to go home bare feet. But regardless, Mommy brought us to church every Sunday. And that thing stayed with me. At the age of 12, I could make a conscious decision on my own, not because anybody forced me, but on my own to choose Jesus over Satan. So parents, I am admonishing us all, let us try to mold and fashion our children after Jesus so that when trauma comes, they will be able to overcome.
All right, we now have the sun set now, so I just want to ask the church for 10 minutes and could take 2 questions from the floor before we wrap up. If no question from the floor, let me... How do you build character?
Saviour, that's an excellent question. As I told you, I might not have all the answers for you, but I can direct you to the counsel to parents and teachers. But what she also encouraged, she said that, and not just that she said, but it's only through wisdom and I guess the Spirit of God that will be able to tell you or to give you the insight as to how to go about. But in her book, what she indicated is that, sometimes we tend to feel sorry for children. We tend to be lenient with them. Let's say, for instance, the child did something wrong, and maybe you scolded her yesterday for it, but she did it wrong today again, and you gave her a good licking yesterday, and you say, God, I have to beat her. I didn't think I go hit her today because, let me tell you, sometimes you just have to stick to it. And I didn't tell you to want to abuse the children, right? But you have to, she said that you have to stick, let your yes be yes, and your no be no. She also said that we need to grow them in prayers. You understand? Not you praying for them, but everybody pray together. Another thing that I made reference, what they listen to, what they watch, what they read. That's another one. But she gives a listing as to how we could go about training our children. So if you want to get more of that, consult to parents and teacher. Chapter 8.
There's something else. There's something else in relation to building character, and that is we the parents have to be examples in the home. It doesn't make sense we're telling our children to live a particular way and do certain things, and they see us doing something totally different. We are telling them don't lie. We are telling them don't steal. We are telling them don't covet, yet our speech in the house and the way we are interacting with people are just contrary to all that we see. What we are doing is undoing everything that we see. The sister speaks about trauma. Let that trauma, parents should not be the cause of the trauma that they create in the children. Because if the trauma is created by the parent in the house itself, how will the children be able to get through that? It becomes even harder because here's a situation where the people who are supposed to be loving and caring and taking care of you are abusing you and dealing with you in those negative ways. It will only lead to you not trusting from those early age. Oh yes. 9.
All right, in closing, I just like...
One thing that usually cause or create abuse, I think Dr. Chaitan spoke on it, is when you attempt to scold or discipline the child in anger. Without a shadow of a doubt, you do things that you don't even want to do. You understand? As I said, for me, I usually beating is not the first result. Sometimes you talk. Sometimes you give them time out, or sometimes you withhold privileges or items, right? But there's sometimes when they have to be spanked. But what I would say, you know, one thing I learned from my father, I could count on my hands how many times my father beat me, and not because he was a laid-back guy, but when my father speaks to you, you know you have to, and he's not aggressive, he's a calm guy, but you just know you have to act when he speaks. But when daddy hit, then he would think, listen, I think it because XYZ the next. You understand? And I think that's a good way of disciplining your children, so that you will not get into the mode of hitting them in anger. And that's something that I also need to learn from myself. So I'm not just saying that to people, but it's things that I also have to work on, right? So maybe what you can do, let him or her know, listen, I spoke to you 6 and 7 times, you did not listen. I don't like to beat you, but I have to beat you because this is the consequence of your action. And by doing that, you wouldn't hit the child in rage, because by hitting them in rage, that is what caused the abuse. Go ahead.
Afternoon, everybody. I just also wanted to, first of all, say Katya, you're doing a wonderful job in representing the panel. However, I noticed from my own experience that sometimes parents cannot really give that children have. I'm speaking from understanding my father is my father. Not every child wants their father to be in their life. But as I grew older, I started realizing maybe my thinking was best for my father not to be in my life, because probably he couldn't give me what he didn't have, meaning the examples that he would have had from growing up. And a lot of people, I realize, our actions, our methods of basically what you would say traditional, what you have seen, what you were exposed to, things that happened to you. So for example, in the olden days, they have allowed children to kneel on a crater. But now they may not do it, but the parent might still do something as equal, as harsh as being on a crater but in a modern kind of format. What I'm really saying is that we need to teach parents, or to create an avenue where healing can happen in the life of the parent. And when healing happens, it helps to break some of the old tendencies that they would have developed in their life. And at the same time, there's enough resources, as Katia pointed out a few. I also want to say that the Bible should be our first guidebook in dealing with that, and then we have the supporting material, of course, because Sister White and all of these folks, they point directly back to the scripture. So if we take time as parents to read God's word, to pray and ask God to help us, and also we should not underestimate the power of praying, because we speak about healing. You understand? If I am not healed as an individual from the childhood trauma that I have experienced, I would never be able to rightly or adequately discipline or groom my child. So it starts with a measure of healing, and healing must take place first in me. And then, when you find you are healed, or you're on your way to a lot of the things that we would say have been handed down, you would be the one that would break that cycle and start a new beginning then in the life of your family. So I just wanted to mention that.
We'll have to bring this panel discussion to a close, and we'll take the closing song. Brother Johnny, could you lead us in Days Dying in the West? And then 51.
watching us with rest. Wait and worship while we nap. Save the evening lamps arise through all the sky. Holy, 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 Lord God of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of thee. Heaven and earth are praising thee. O Lord, most high. God of light, we need and all the universe I hope. Gather us to seek thy face through the flood of thy embrace. On the one side. Holy, 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 Lord God of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of thee. Heaven and earth are praising thee. O Lord, most high. While the evening shadows fall, hearts of love enfolding all, through the glory and the grace of the stars that gleam like this, our hearts are set. Holy, 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 Lord God of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of thee. Heaven and earth are praising thee. O Lord, most high. And forever from our side, as the stars, the day, the night. God of angel on our right, let eternal morning rise, and shadows and holy, 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 Lord God of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of thee. Heaven and earth are praising thee. O Lord, most high.
Let's bow our heads. Father, it was a wonderful privilege to be in your presence here today. We thank you, Lord, for all that has happened. We pray, Heavenly Father, that as we leave here, that you will continue to go with us, bring us home safely, and continue to bless, lead, and guide us throughout this week. Let your presence always be with us, and let us always focus upon you, our God, our Savior, our Redeemer. Bless us all, we pray. In Jesus' name we ask. With thanksgiving. Amen.